There is a research that says that only 26% of young Muslims are able to pray Fajr consistently. What happened to the next 74%? I really want to know the answer, and I went on and found out there are three main categories over that, and which is there are some people that have zero Fajr, no Fajr. There are people that do it on and off, and there are some people that used to be consistent in their Fajr, but they are falling off. And my aim for this video, inshallah, is to nudge any of you in any of these categories all the way to being consistent, inshallah. And guess what? I as well faced all three problems, because there was a time I was missing the Fajr Salah consistently every single day for the next 8 months. And Alhamdulillah, I am now the Imam of our Fajr Masjid, and I've been leading the Fajr Salah for 6 months. And without any waste of your time, let's start with the first category, the no Fajr category. People usually talk bad about these people, saying that you're going to hell and everything. If you probably have no context about this thing, you might scold these kind of people, but I realize that it's probably not their fault. Although there are some people who carelessly miss Fajr. But when I was missing those Fajr for 8 months, I really wanted to try. There are some people who really wanted to try to wake up for Fajr, but it's just because people misunderstood their own struggles. And from my own research, I realized that the problem people have with this thing is that they have not trained their circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is like an internal clock we have in our human bodies. There's a video I made on the Sleepful Guide, and I made mention of an analogy given about the circadian rhythm, and I said it's like this Minecraft clock. I would like to take that back, and I think the better analogy is like the inverse of what's called the daylight sensor. The daylight sensor, what happens to it is when in Minecraft, like when there's a light above, the daylight sensor, it gets activated and it turns off. So it gets disactivated and then it turns off the redstone signal. And when the light is out, it brings in the signal, right? But our circadian rhythm is the inverse of this thing. When there's the light, the circadian rhythm will be on. When there's the no light, the circadian rhythm will be off. What I mean by that is it uses the daytime, nighttime and daytime. It uses the sun and the light of the sun. But because these days we have like this artificial light bulb, it messed up with a lot of our circadian rhythm, and some people use their phones in bed and everything. So the very first step for if you want to be consistent in Fajr is to train your circadian rhythm, and it takes about a week or 2 weeks to fix your circadian rhythm. And the generic advice people give is like sleep early and then you'll be able to wake up. I also took that advice and I tried sleeping early. Sometimes I will sit in bed, I'll be overthinking about that. Sometimes I will sleep but I will wake up multiple times through the night. So how can I sleep early? My own advice is not the same as the people in the internet. My advice is to use what's called the 90 minutes rule. 90 minutes rule basically means if you know the sleep cycles, it revolves around 90 minutes. So every 90 minutes it cycles again and again and again throughout your night. Some people have a different cycle, 80 minutes, 70 minutes, 120, but vast majority of people have about 90 minutes. So the 90 minutes rule is basically putting an alarm 90 minutes plus what I call the buffer time. Buffer time is like the time you are in bed, you close your eyes, the duration it will take you when you close your eyes to the time you get to sleep. That's the buffer time. So in my own scenario, I sleep within 10 minutes. So 10 minutes plus the 90 minute cycle. If you want, you can do one cycle, which is 90 minutes, 2 cycles, 3 hours, 4.5 hours for 3 cycles, 4 hours, 6 hours for 4 cycles. So let's give a scenario, because on average people sleep 10 or 11. Let's just say for the sake of this video, you want to sleep 10 p.m. Good. The circadian rhythm, to train it, we said we use the 90 minutes rule. And what I want you to do is to wake up 4 a.m. That's 6 hours of night sleep. Put in an alarm for 6 hours and then also add the buffer time to it. So 6 hours plus 10 minutes, that's the buffer time you use. And I most likely 99% of the time you would wake up. In fact, today or like last night, I slept 1 a.m. So it's not about the time you sleep. I slept 1 a.m. and I woke up 4 a.m. because I used the 90 minutes rule and I woke up, alhamdulillah. So if you're gonna use it for the very short sleep cycles, but be aware that in the daytime you will feel sleepy. So it will wake you up for Fajr if you use small cycles, but ideally I would encourage you to use the longer cycles for your sleep. So we said it, 10 minutes before time. Some people will take 30 minutes, some people up to an hour, some people 2 minutes. Ideally for my scenario, 10 minutes before time plus the 90 minutes rule. The reason this is so effective is because it eliminates what's called sleep inertia. Sleep inertia is like the grogginess, you kind of feel somehow heavy when you wake up in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. And so this 90 minutes rule, it You wake up at the end of the cycle is already done. So you wake up without feeling any grogginess, and which is very, very powerful. And I did that, it helped me. But there's a slight problem because when you wake up, ideally, if you wake up 4 a.m., try, if you can't, not sleep. Some people, they tend to use their phone just before the Fajr end. So I would not advise you to do that because sometimes you'll be using your phone, but right before the Fajr, you start feeling sleepy. So we want to train your circadian rhythm to the point that it will be able to wake you up by itself. Okay, or by your brain to be able to wake up, understand this is the time for sleep, this is the time for waking up. That's just what we want to train in this video, or at least in this section. So if you can, you try to use it. If not, try to be awake till Fajr. And then after Fajr, you can replace your sleep. Or if you feel a lot sleepy, what I would advise is to sit down and sleep. Don't sleep lying down. If you wake up 4 a.m. and don't want to go back to sleep, you sit down, because when you sit down, you don't get to enter what's called the deep sleep. And deep sleep is like when you don't hear anything, the physical contact doesn't wake you up. So you get to sleep in that way. But like I mentioned in the beginning, some people tend to face this problem whereby they will wake up multiple times throughout the night, like I used to do. Those 8 months I mentioned, sometimes I'll be awake for Tahajjud, but I'll go back to sleep right around 4 a.m. and then I'll miss my Fajr Salah. So this kind of people, calculate again the 90 minutes rule. If you can, if for example you woke up 3:30 and Fajr is like 5, so you have 90 minutes, so you can go back to sleep and wake up. But when you wake up around 4:30, you cannot go back to sleep, because when you go back to sleep, there's a very high likelihood that you would not wake up for Fajr. So what you do in this scenario is try as well again to sit down and sleep. If you must sleep, if not, if you can, try to push in and be awake till Fajr, and after Fajr you can go back to sleep. And hopefully this first problem is solved. Now let's go to the second step, which is the on and off, or second category also. This kind of people is that they would wake up some days for Fajr and they will miss some days, and that's how they have been doing. They have been struggling with these kind of things, and I used to struggle with this thing as well. This is similar. The advice is similar to the first one, which is instead of training your circadian rhythm, you fix your circadian rhythm, because your circadian rhythm is already trained through irregular bedtime. Your brain doesn't understand the time you're supposed to be asleep. Sometimes you sleep at 10 p.m., sometimes you sleep at 11, sometimes 8, sometimes 12, 1. So it's not consistent. To be able to make it consistent, everything, single thing, some people will say, okay, sleep at the exact same time. But you and I know that there are so many distractions at night. There's this like four more effects. Like when you turn off your phone, you start to feel like, I want to, like, okay, what if someone messages me, someone listens to me, this kind of things. And so to battle these kind of things, also in my sleep guide, I made mention of several problems that a person faced while trying to sleep early. One of the problems is like a dopamine trap. Dopamine is like this, there's a chemical or molecule in your brain that when you feel pleasure, when you feel happy about something, or when you scroll on your phone, you play video games, when you watch movies or something like that, the brain produces so much that dopamine, and it wants to feel this kind of happiness. So every single time when you're in bed, you notice that the very last hour, you will start to feel like you want to get so much cravings to just use your phone or something like that. This is the kind of problems you have to face. The second problem is like revenge bedtime procrastination. Basically, when you work throughout your day, or maybe you're in school throughout your day, you will feel like you don't have any more freedom except at night time when nobody's awake. That's when you start to feel, okay, I need to do this thing, I need to do this thing. Before you know it, you would start at first, you start working, but then you start feeling sleepy and then you go back to sleep. One of the third thing is the environmental factors. There are so many factors that are affecting your sleep. Some people could be like the temperature of their room. Some people could be like people that are interrupting them to sleep. So there is a book I would highly advise you to read, which is Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. The advice basically is leave the room you're in. Sometimes I would be in bed. I would be like in my desk. I'll be working. I'll be so exhausted. But the moment I'm in bed, it happened very recently too. I would just feel like my brain is start active again. I start to feel the energy again. Okay, so this kind of problem, what you do is leave the room. Don't stay in the room, because your brain have already registered the bed as in a place where you're supposed to work, or it's not a place for you to rest. So what you do is leave that place and go and exhaust yourself. One, exhaust yourself. Just do anything that would make you tired and then come back. The moment you're so tired, come back to bed and sleep. If you're not sleepy again, get out and go back again and come back till you're so sleepy that you go to bed, your brain will not be overthinking, and then you go to sleep. That's how you start to fix your night sleep. For the dopamine trap, like I said, dopamine trap could be like, sometimes you just have to cut off some of the things. But sometimes if you cannot cut off, ideally you can start sleeping a little bit later, like 11. Some people like sleep about like 11, 12, 1. The longer you sleep, the more likelihood like you would feel to wake up for Fajr. and I'm trying to look for the easiest path for you. So based on my own scenario, when I look at my own situation, what I did was I noticed that whenever my phone don't have a battery, I get to sleep early. So try to exhaust everything if you can from your phone. Or some people they try to block out all the distractions, everything. Some people will try to replace the dopamine because the FOMO effect is very powerful because you feel all like so much cravings that you really want to just check the messages, and from checking the messages you will just leave your sleep altogether. And really what you want to do is just have a bedtime that your brain understands. Some people, the way they do it, they would sleep late. For example, they will sleep 12. The next day they will sleep a little bit later. But the thing is, when they sleep 12, they get to wake up earlier. They will set an alarm to wake up earlier and stay exhausted throughout the day. And then the next day they will sleep a little bit late, a little bit late, a little bit late. Before you know it, you're back to the normal time you're supposed to sleep. I personally don't like that because sometimes I will be so sleepy and I would sleep a lot in the daytime. And when I sleep a lot in the daytime, I cannot sleep again at night. So I have to come back and do a lot of things at night. So this dopamine trap is a little bit hard, but if you can get through it, you'll be able to sleep. And by fixing your circadian rhythm understands that this is the time for sleep and this is the time for waking up. When your body understands, like I'm telling you, there are so many times I slept 2 a.m. I told you last night I slept 1 a.m. and I still woke up for Fajr. Some days, like I've been in school, I was using my phone to the time I was not like reading or something. Like I was watching movies, videos, and I slept like that, and I still woke up for Fajr. So when you have trained your circadian rhythm, I'm telling you, like none of these people understand. You'll be able to be awake by the permission of Allah. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you misunderstood so many things. The third thing, which is the falling off, people are fell off, and it's very sad to see that you used to be very good at doing a Fajr Salah, but now you miss. And what I noticed is I as well. This is one of the things I failed a lot because this is how my journey was. I would miss Fajr and then I'll go back again. I'll miss Fajr, I'll come back again. But now this is the longest I've been doing Fajr. This can be easier for you because you already knew what works for you. You already know what works. You already know what doesn't work. So what the advice I would give you, just do what works. It's probably most likely that you got a new lifestyle, a new thing was introduced to your life. Maybe you went into university or a new environment, but just try to replicate. I know, like maybe when you are at home, people used to wake you up, and when you are in a different place, someone used to wake you up. And so try to replicate. Like, let me give you a story of mine. How did I wake up for Fajr? After missing Fajr for 8 months. Basically, I did not, I never showed the way. It was my mom that helped me. What she did was she saw me for 8 months missing Fajr. Like I wanted to try to add the numbers in 244 days. I wanted to count 244. Counting that you be bored. That's how many days I missed Fajr. And what she did was she stood at my door. She'll be trying to wake me up, and I will not be awake. And then she knows me like better than I know myself. She knows that I hate cold water at night. So what she did was she just said it in a way that I can hear everything. I was asleep, but she just said, "Bring me this cold water." Instantly, my eyes was like, I was like, "Please, please, no." Like, get up, or I'm gonna bring the cold water. She knew I hate this thing, but she just brought it out for me. And I was like, "Oh my god, please, come on, like, please." She brought the cold water, and I knew, like, if I don't get up, I have no other option but to get up for Fajr. Although I hate going for Fajr, but I just have to get up. If not, this cold water is gonna be special on me. And I went for Fajr. Sometimes I would be like saying that you're not supposed to wake person up, it's all healthy, like all these things, but I'll still get up for Fajr again and again and again. Up to that, I was able to get up by myself. I understood the exact time she used to come, and before she would come to my door, I'm already up. She'll see me, I'm up. So that's how she slowly trained me to get up for Fajr. You can implement that. You can ask someone to hold you accountable. You can ask someone to like pour cold water on you to wake you up, like if you can. But try to use what already worked for you. This is the easiest thing. Have already worked for you. And the problem, 70%, I told you, 70% are just stuck in this thing. They didn't know how to get it. And in this video, I just gave you everything. Use all these things. I promise you, there is a very high likelihood you'll be able to get up for Fajr consistently. And I don't understand some problems. I don't understand because when I was there, I used something like this, like evil eye, like all this black magic, like something's wrong with me. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with you. You have no evil eye on you. You have no black magic. It is never too late for you to change. Like change is possible still. Like no matter how old are you. Fajr is not something like it's not nice to have. It is an obligation upon every single Muslim. It's so sad to see 74% of young Muslims in Fajr. It's so sad to see that. And I really, 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 really hope that this method works for you. And I would like to end with a humble quote I usually use. Too much attention makes a donkey think he's a lion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.